Greetings. My name is Cynthia Bredner, and I'm a bereavement specialist and I'm a grief counselor. And I work with people as they process loss in their life. This video series that you are about to embark on will teach you the very basics about grief and loss. Grief is that which remains after you've had a loss in life. So it really matters little what the loss is. It's how you process everything that is happening to you. We talk a lot about it in our day-to-day living and in our society. It has been thought about since the 60s when Elizabeth Kubler-Ross introduced the stages of grief as she worked with the dying. But as we came to realize, people who are dying are not only the ones who are dealing with the stages of grief, because anytime we have a loss, we will struggle with the stages of grief. This video series is simple and it's easy because the stages and learning about them is the easy part. It's the living them that's hard. In the practice that I have, I work with so many people as they walk through their stages of grief, as they walk through their journey of life, as they walk through the path. I hold their hand and help them to guide them and make sure that they can come out the other side. So often we fear going into the darkness of grief because we are afraid. But really, what grief is evidence that you have loved. So the hardest part is witnessing the grief that loving creates. So I hope you enjoy this series. I hope you learn a lot. And more than that, I hope that it connects us. I'm hoping that you may reach out to me if you have something you want to talk about. I'm available by Zoom or on the telephone, and I work a lot with individuals doing one-on-one counseling. So enjoy this video series. I'd love some feedback, and you're welcome to visit my website at BreakingstibaH.com, or you can find me by just Googling my name, Cynthia Bredner. I look forward to hearing from you once you've completed this series, and we'll catch up on what you are grieving and help your life be more joyful. Enjoy.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad you're here. Today in this mini-series, we are going to be looking at grief and how that grief is good. It is possible. I like to call this journey a natural journey and a healing process. It happens to us after any loss. If you do it well and you heal, you will move on to new life and spiritual growth. It takes time, it's hard work, and it hurts. However, when you deny the reality of your loss, you will get stuck. So why are you here? Are you ready to learn about processing loss? Are you ready to move on and it feels like stress and apathy are holding you back? Would you like to know how to make change easier? If you said yes to any or all of these questions, then welcome to this mini-series. You're in the right place. Here's what we're going to look at today. In this short mini-series, we're going to talk about what is grief. We're going to talk about the tasks of grieving and how all the stages work and what they look like. We're going to talk about the journey of life, because life is a journey. We're going to talk about healthy development and that it takes time. And we're going to look at resting in the stages and bringing awareness. These 4 points are very important to a healthy and consistent spiritual growth and life. Because even though we may not think it, it is a choice. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was a pioneer and worked with the dying in the 60s. She was the one that coined the 5 stages and is well known for her work. Since that time, many other models and revisions to the stages have been developed, but I'm old school. I like to start at the beginning and then work through what we know and maybe overlay or apply new strategies or new thoughts. The stages themselves are relatively static. How they show is pretty consistent, and they do an ebb and they do flow. Grief is a fallout of any loss that you feel. When we remember that, it's a reminder that we have loved. The 5 stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, apathy, acceptance. And then David Kessler's wonderful research from his own personal experiences and finding new meaning. We're going to explore and talk about each stage and how they show up in your life. We're going to take the time to learn about grief because I want you to know it's not if, but when you experience it. And when we open the door, talk about it, and you're prepared, when you have a loss in your life, you will find it easier to process. Denial. This can't be happening. How often have you went to and your keys are gone? Your first thing is, this can't be happening. I have to leave for work. Where are my keys? That is denial. You have a loss, your keys are missing, and you can't believe it's happening. It's a fallout of unrealized events. You may refuse to accept the fact that it has occurred, and you may minimize or outright deny the situation. Oh my gosh, my keys can't be gone. So denial is the first stage, and we all feel it, and we all witness it. Anger. Why is this happening to me? Why me? Such a deep question. You begin to realize that the loss has occurred, and there's so many pieces to it. There's so many parts to it. So the anger begins to set in because you're maybe angry at whoever you want to blame. You may be angry at yourself. You may be angry at the divine presence in your life or that which is out of your control. You may feel so lost as you begin to realize that something has changed and something has shifted. The question is, why is this happening to me? And the anger feels real, and it is real. You may argue that it's unfair, and this is where we search to find someone or something to blame. Bargaining. I will do anything to change this. You're madly searching and you're begging. You may try to change or delay the loss. A good example of this, if you've ever had a partner or a relationship breakdown, bargaining really comes out in this instance because you will do anything. You will change, you will pick up your socks, you will be home more, you will do whatever it takes. So you begin to search and beg and ask, please, please, please. The other time this comes to light is when someone has been given a terminal illness diagnosis, and we begin to bargain with our divine source or that which we turn to in these times. We ask and we beg and we search. We move into a stage of apathy. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and many of the researchers call this stage also depression. I choose the word apathy because depression is a clinical diagnosis. Apathy is a place where you can live, and it's a dark stage of understanding, and it can be mistaken as depression. We feel like, what's the point of going on? You ask this question over and over, what's the point? Where do I turn? How do I go on? What's the next step? It's a very dark stage. You come to recognize that the loss has occurred, and you begin to isolate yourself. You're crying, you're grieving. In the stage of apathy, it begins to settle in after the initial stages of the loss. As an example, a loved one dies, you go through all of the initial stages and you do the funeral, and then everyone goes home. For everyone else, life goes back to normal. They may have a passing thought of what you're going through, but they're not living in it. It's the recognition time of the loss. It's the point of shifting. It's a decision point because you need to find the point of going on. You need to choose to come up the other side and come out of this dark stage of understanding. Acceptance. It's going to be okay. You're crossing the bridge. You're moving back into the world of the living. You come to accept the loss and realize that it's now the fabric of your being. You understand the situation logically, and you've come to terms with it emotionally. Acceptance means healing. Acceptance is a crack in your world, a place where the light can get in. Acceptance is opportunity, and acceptance is a chance to begin again. The process of healing and growth is not a smooth progression. It's more like a lightning bolt, full of ups and downs, regressions, dramatic leaps, and depressing backslides. It's not easy, however, it is manageable. One of the things you want to realize is that whether you are better or worse than yesterday or 5 minutes ago, healing is on the way. You can't change what happened, but you can change how you feel about it. In David Kessler's book, Finding Meaning, Sixth Stage of Grief, he talks deeply and profoundly about the loss in his life. It's where he revisited his many years of work, furthering Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of grief and applying them to his own life. I lifted this quote from his book because I found it very helpful. Life gives us pain. Our job is to experience it when it gets handed to us. Avoidance of loss has a cost. Having our pain seen and seeing the pain in others is a wonderful medicine for both body and soul. When we are seeking to find new meaning and acceptance in a loss, it means that we can adjust to a different environment. It opens the door for new interests because we are a new person. It gives us the opportunity to re-enter the human race with a whole different outlook. It increases our ability to forgive and to share the pain of others. It brings peace of mind, and it helps us be responsible for ourselves. When we find new meaning in life, it's usually because we've been through a loss. Finding new meaning in life is an ongoing process of which we're doing every day, all the time. Life is a journey. It's not a destination. So finding new meaning brings the journey joy, and it brings it to life. And it's part of a healthy development of our life. And it brings us choice. So how does it show up in life? I've used a few examples through the definitions. My favorite is talking about a child wanting a cookie. Gives an opportunity in a very light scenario for you to see or to watch how the stages of grief work. You can imagine a child coming in the kitchen and wanting a cookie and asking their mom, "Can I have a cookie?" Well, it's about half an hour before dinner. So, of course, mom or dad says, "No, you're not going to have a cookie because it's almost dinner time." If you watch the child, you will see the stage of denial, the shock. They can't believe that they can't have a cookie. They don't understand why. It's just they can't. So they have this look on their face of, "What? What do you mean? What do you mean I can't have a cookie? Why? Why is this happening? It can't be happening that I can't have a cookie. So then you will see through body language and through facial expression that they'll go into anger. What? They're mad now because they want a cookie and they think they deserve it. They don't understand why it's happening to them. And they're realizing that they have a loss, that they can't have a cookie. So they become angry. They stomp their foot, they begin to cry, and they might yell, they may throw a tantrum. Who knows what they'll do? But they go into the stage of anger. You give me a cookie right now. I want a cookie right now. And when a person holds their ground around a cookie, or when the loss is not something that can be changed, the anger just falls on deaf ears. So then the child will begin to bargain. They'll say, if you give me a cookie, I'll go and clean my room. If you give me a cookie, I'll tidy up my toys. If you would only give me a cookie, I'll be a good child. And they begin to bargain with who they see to be the divine source of getting all cookies. And so they try to convince the person to give them the cookie because they're going to do it in exchange for something else. And again, when we hold fast with a loss, or when the person doling out the cookies won't allow it, then further development happens. And the child might fall into a stage of apathy of, oh, why does this happen to me? I never get any cookies. I'm never allowed to have cookies. Oh, and they go through sadness and grief, and they go through tears, and they just plump themselves on the floor into a little heap. And there they are, just a mess of emotion. And when nothing happens, because many losses cannot be rectified, they can't be given back, the child will all of a sudden see the light of day. The crack in that grief will be evident, the light will come in, and the realization that not having a cookie is not the end of the world. So they begin to accept, they begin to realize that it's going to be okay. So they pick themselves up off the floor, they look at the source, and they realize that everything will be okay. And they go back to whatever they were doing. However, they go back a stronger person. They go back to realize that just because they cannot have a cookie, it's not the end of the world. And you will find when you have loss in your life, when you process it as a healthy development practice, that as painful as it may be, it's never the end of the world. I'd like to take you through some questions, and I want you to journal for a little bit, and I want you to observe. So I'm going to invite you to listen to the questions, and I'm going to invite you to think about something in your life that was a grief. Think about what it is in your life that you're maybe still processing. Did you have a death? Did someone you love die? Did you lose your job? Have you had a relationship breakdown? Are you an empty nester? Are your children growing up and moving on in life? I want you to write the 5 stages of grief on your paper. Denial, anger, bargaining, apathy, and acceptance. And I want you to look at these stages, and I want you to write a loss, something that you have witnessed in your life that was loved and lost. Can you name the feelings that you're experiencing? Can you see the stages in those feelings? How do you feel? What does it mean? I would really like to ask you to pause this class at this moment and take a few minutes to review the 5 stages and a loss in your life. And I want you to just write thoughts and feelings and journal whatever comes up. I'm certain that journaling exercise has brought up some interesting things, and I'm looking forward to our call so we can talk about what that journaling exercise brought up for you. I'm excited to hear. I'd like to look out into the future for you. I want you to put on your binoculars and look into your own future. What if you're stronger than you think? Can you see yourself standing in your own strength? What if you can be a helpful listener and know how to guide yourself and others? Learning the stages of grief? That could be you. What if you recognize emotional stages and find healing? You can heal, and you are stronger than you think. So what's next? I want to invite you to learn the stages of grief as you go along. Watch for them. Pay attention. Be aware now that you know what they are. Be your own eyes and ears. Listen to your loved ones. Now that you are prepared for grief and loss, you will notice that it's much easier than you think. I want you to remember to care for yourself in your grieving. I want you to get good sleep. And I want you to eat well. I want you to drink lots of good fluids, water and herbal teas. I want you to get some exercise and get out into some fresh air and breathe. Take some time outs. Engage your parasympathetic nervous system by taking deep breaths and filling your lungs. Find friends. Seek help when you are struggling with loss. Be patient with yourself and kind. Do something with your feelings. If you're feeling angry, punch a pillow. If you want to yell, go out into the middle of the bush and yell. Exhaust those feelings. Do something with them. And most of all, allow yourself the time. Grief is a process. It's a journey. And you're on it. And this too shall pass. I want to offer for you with this mini-series a 1-hour consultation with me. You can contact me by phone, by email, or through my website, and we'll spend an hour on the phone together. And you can ask any questions, and we can talk about the stages of grief. I am so excited that you chose to come on this journey with me today through this mini course. It's a beginning, remember that. It's a beginning for your healthy development. It's your journey of life, and you do always have choices. I look forward to talking to you. Get in touch with me anytime. Bye for now.